Hi all and welcome to another week of Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams and tonight is September the 28th. Buckle up. Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Tonight will be interesting. It's going to be fun. The songs were indicative of what will be revealed later on with the intel. Things are changing. Things have been changing over a while, but the ramp up has begun on all levels. So look forward to that. Right. Let's get into the usual stuff before we get into some real interesting pieces tonight. There's probably a whole page of intel, probably 2 pages of op-ed pieces that are interesting as well, and it's things that make you go, So it's all there tonight, so it's a bit lighter than it was last week, shall we say. But there's still fun and games going on, not least in the alternative media. Some people like to play divide and conquer games, and we've seen elements of that this week. Message for those people: it failed. Oops. Keep trying. Right. Email for the show: truth.honor.and.integrity@gmail.com. And the link for the show is Spreaker.com/user/8955881. And the articles website, which also has some of the bigger shows. I know there's a lot of people kind of playing catch up. They've only been listening to the show a certain length of time for whatever reason. And if you want to get the essence of the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show, go onto the website thinkdifferent.thepeoplesclub.org. We have a section for all the bigger shows. Some would say, is there a difference? Sometimes not, no. But the more detailed pieces of the future of humanity, who the cabal are, the factions, the Shane interview that laid out parts of the structure on this planet, who's who and what's what. And then we had the Levashoff material, all about humans and what's been going on here, and also the Svarli material, which is all about how the Illuminati treat their own, never mind us. They're all there in nicely categorized by our webmaster Michael, and so the archives for all the shows are there, but there's a special section for the extra shows. I think the UPU show is in there, and also the Kingdom of Mana show. So that tells you what's going on there. We have the Facebook page, which is Truth, Honour and Integrity, and we have a Facebook alternative without the fun and games and the AI and the privacy and data issues on MeWe.com/join/truth-honour-integrity. Or if you can't remember all that, send an email to the truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail.com, and we will add your email address into that website. We also have the People's Club donations website link. Something will be corrected with that tomorrow. It appears there's been fun and games. The funds are safe, so no worries about that. It gets transferred fairly regularly from the PayPal into the bank account. If I have time, which is limited currently, there is just so much going on so many different levels at the moment. It's difficult to keep up with everything, and I'm hoping to post a 3/4 year update on how much money is in the account, how much has been collected, and how much is left. So, like we always say, we are transparent, unlike other people. And the People's Club donations website is thepeoplesclub.org. Right, let's get into some of the news, which is interesting in many countries. But first of all, we're going to start in Boston, because they still play fun and games, and they're still trying to sway certain people off their soul level choice. I'll have more on that later. But there was a game day giveaway at the home opener, and all fans will receive a free DNA test as they enter the stadium. Fans who choose to participate can learn more about their genetic makeup, really, thanks to Orig 3N, ORIG 3N, the Boston-based biotech firm sponsoring the event. Fans will swab the insides of their cheek, drop the sample into a stadium bin, and register with the company online. The test apparently offers an insight into your mind, body and health. Yeah, but to whom? And a company spokeswoman said this is the first time that DNA tests are being distributed to fans at a football stadium, and we believe this is an incredible opportunity to reach many people at once. Ravens DNA Day is the perfect way to kick off the season and our unique partnership, said Robin Y. Smith, CEO of Orig 3N. They also have sponsorships with other NFL teams, including the San Francisco 49ers, but the Ravens DNA test giveaway is a first. Ravens being the operative term. We covered this in a recent show of the cabal and the dark use of ravens/crows. Rather ironic they choose to use that particular brand. But if anyone is a fan of Boston, and I'm not, but I don't like the owner of the Boston football, because they are affiliated to a rival soccer club back in my hometown. So I have I don't particularly like that group anyway. But my message is to tell everybody to stop it. If you are going to that particular sporting event, warn people. Just warn them what they're getting into. What is it being used for? Because notice they haven't told you what it's for, only that you can learn, allegedly. An insight, the test offers an insight into your mind, body and health. Well, who is going to benefit from that? Clearly not the people who are doing the swabs. You know, this is where the cloning comes in. This is where the rogue genetics that can target you, where they get your DNA and they can send targeted drugs to you that can take you out. I've warned of this many times. They have drugs that can wipe out the whole black populace, and I've no doubt they've done it for other certain races and colours now. But if people line up for that, then you can't help those people. Stupid. But it's another example of their trying their best to mess with people. I hope it's not supported too well, and they get told to go and F themselves, basically. Where are we next? I think this is Puerto Rico. No, South Florida. Celso Perez told local WSVN TV that he, his family and neighbours were starting to clear fallen trees from the streets after the storm passed through at 9 in the morning a week last Monday. And hours later, in the afternoon, lo and behold, Mr. Perez got a visit from the county. You know, at first he thought he was here to help or offer some assistance with the trees, or maybe he was going to bring some ice or some food or whatever. But no, the official slapped a safety notice on the only part of Perez's fence still standing. 6 hours after the hurricane went through, county officials in South Florida are slapping safety notices on. Really? Where's the help? Of course, there's been none. There's been even less in Puerto Rico. I'll cover that later. So the guy challenged them. He says, "No, I'm not kidding. I have to cite you for this." And the homeowner just laughed. But Mr. Perez stopped laughing when an official told him he would be writing up a report and would be back to check on his property. Mr. Perez told WSVN that a man said he'd have to write me a fine if the fence wasn't up to code by the time he returned. Really? And where's the fence coming from? Because there's nothing in Home Depot. There was nothing in there before the hurricane. The stocks of the Home Depot and Lowe's are way, way down. There's vast shelves empty. And people can see it in Walmart and some other places. The shelves are empty. And this was going on before the hurricane. It's worse now. And at the time this officer was out there, the guy, homeowner, didn't have any power, didn't have any food, didn't have any ice. And this crazy council official decides to slap him with a citation. You know, these type of jobs worths need naming and shaming. That's another one. If maybe somebody who knows Mr. Perez can ask him who the name of the guy who did that, and name and shaming, rather than helping people who are struggling, injured, hungry, thirsty. Now he's slapping citations 6 hours after the hurricane passed through. Unbelievable. The council official who ordered that should be fired immediately. But no chance of Governor Scott doing that, because he's too busy arranging extra payments for his wife's bogus mosquito company. All corrupt down here. So Mr. Perez went on and says, "It's not like I can go to Home Depot because all the stores were closed." And the South Floridian said he understands there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but the county's rush to issue warnings he found was inappropriate. It's not only inappropriate, it's downright ridiculous. Hopefully those people will be going sooner rather than later. I've often mentioned about the French people. Of course, people of Britain and the people of France rarely get on too well. Both have a healthy dislike for each other. It's kind of the way it is. It's a bit like America and Canadians don't particularly like each other. one wonders whether Britain likes any country. We're kind of a very insular nation. We don't even like the Welsh, the Irish or the Scots. So anyway, but one of the things I admire about the French is they will protest, and protest properly. They will sacrifice their pay to come out for a cause, and when they do, it generally leads to other countries in the region, Germany, Britain and others, to follow their lead. So what happened this week is tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of Paris in protest at President Emmanuel Macron's overhaul of France's labour laws. The demonstration was organised by Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left leader who has emerged as the president's principal political opponent. And it comes a day after Mr. Macron signed a new law aimed at making it easier for businesses to hire and fire staff. And this is the third such protest to take place in France this month. On Thursday, some 132,000 people took part in nationwide protests condemning the reforms, while more than 220,000 turned out for demonstrations last week. Crowds are gathered in Paris on Saturday after the leader of the radical leftist La France Insoumise, which means France Unbowed, urged people to join the march from the Place de la Bastille to the Place de la République. The French, when they protest, tend to get the support of all the people, or a large chunk of the people, and the truckers come out and basically drive 5 miles an hour across all lanes of all the interstates, or motorways as they're called over there, and just block everything off. Oops, the truck's broken down and I can't move it. Oops, another truck's broken down and I can't move it. And just basically bring the whole of France to a gridlock. And you have to admire people who will go that far. I wish we had more like them. Not only in this country, in Britain also. We always seem to wait for France to complain first before we act. You know, how much longer before the people of Britain realise they're being stiffed, left, right and centre. Grenfell Tower, 2 London Bridge bogus events, the bogus train event that was mentioned in last week's show, and now they're telling people that it doesn't look likely we're going out of Brexit. I told you this would happen. You know, they just get people in the EU to turn round to Britain and say, we want 118 billion for you to leave, which Britain can't pay, and so Britain has no option but to stay, and the politicians goes, oh, it wasn't our fault. Yeah, right. It's time the people came out. So Mr. Trump decided to place restrictions this week on 8 countries who are wanting to gain entry into the United States, ranging from a total ban to more targeted restrictions under a new proclamation signed by Donald Trump last Sunday. The new rules, which will impact the citizens of Chad, Iran, go figure, Libya, go figure, North Korea, go figure, Somalia, Syria, Venezuela and Yemen. And this will go into effect on October the 18th. Chad, Iran, Libya, North Korea, Somalia, Syria, Venezuela and Yemen. Can anybody tell me when any of those 8 countries attacked America? Like, ever? So why are we denying their people the freedom to move on their own planet? Because they're terrorists? Really? It's unbelievable. Very soon Mr. Trump will not be able to make those type of decisions, be it forced or otherwise. Officials stressed that valid visas would not be revoked as a result of the proclamation, and some countries will face full bans. Others are more tailored, such as restrictions impacting Venezuela, which will only apply to certain government officials and their families. That's another country who's struggling, that needs help, and they can't even flee to get help. Not good. Trump's controversial ban on visitors from 6 Muslim-majority countries expires Sunday, 90 days after it went into effect, and so they've now released a new one. Where are we next? Right. This is about the UN. No doubt, it won't be good news, never is. But this is a story I picked up this week about a 14-year-old Congolese girl who found refuge in a camp supposedly protected by UN peacekeepers. Yeah, right. Now, the camp should have been safe the day from day one, but it wasn't. On day one, she was raped. A delegation from the UN was paying a visit, and her grandmother had left her in charge of her siblings, and that day the girl says a UN peacekeeper slipped inside their home and assaulted her, sexually assaulted her and raped her in front of the other children. But you think that was bad enough, but that was not the end of the story. Even though she reported the rape, the girl has never got any help from the UN. None. Unfortunately, to add insult to injury, the girl became pregnant, however, and had a baby. And the UN sexual abuse by these peacekeeper soldiers is prominent all over the world, but its epicenter is in the Congo. There's been a lot of fun and games going on in the Congo. We had the war with the reptilians in the Congo in 1996 when they opened the portal. I think there's still fun and games going on there. And the Congolese were promised reforms that have mostly fallen short. So again, we had Live Aid. How many years ago was that? 33 years ago. And the people of Africa are still starving. While warlords have bundles of money to buy weapons so they can shoot everyone. So, of the 2,000 sexual abuse and exploitation complaints made against UN peacekeepers worldwide, more than 700 has occurred in the Congo. So that tells you almost just over a third. And this was found out by the Associated Press, and the embattled African nation is home to the UN's largest peacekeeping force, which, wait for it, costs a staggering $1 billion a year. What, to rape kids? Bearing in mind, us, mugging American people are paying 25% of that. near just short of a quarter, I think Mr. Trump said, plus other additional costs for the UN to rape kids. Once again, no accountability. That may be about to change. Here's a rather good news story out of Africa. There's a plan called the Great Green Wall Project, and the plan is to plant 11 million trees right across the bottom of the Sahara Desert, which is roughly 5,000 miles across and 2 miles wide, of 11 million trees, which is to prevent further desertification and also, according to them, change the climate in a better way. And this, the country of Senegal has made the most progress with this plan to date, and like I said, they called it the Great Green Wall. And I'm sure we all wish the African people well with that particular project, with too many in other parts of the world chopping trees down for nothing when we could use hemp. But on it goes. We're in Africa again. It's African week, it seems. Nigeria's police chief Ibrahim Idris has ordered the immediate removal of all police roadblocks across the country. You'd be surprised to know it's not just the police are bad in all countries, not just here in Western world. And this has come as welcome news to many Nigerians, because the roadblocks are often little more than excuses to demand bribes from both ordinary travellers and those who are transporting goods. The police statement, however, said the move is intended to reduce time wasted at roadblocks and ease business. Yeah, right. So this person described what happens when you meet a policeman on the road in Nigeria, and it can be an exhausting experience. The police are loaded with AK-47s, which doesn't do much to reassure you about your safety, and more than likely it's invariably a man who would ask you to identify yourself and provide a driving licence. Then he would check the boot of your car. Next he would verify that you have everything required by law: a fire extinguisher in each car, a warning triangle, insurance, a roadworthiness certificate, and other further documentation. Any omission of those papers would lead to a choice of accompanying them to a police station or an offer to help you settle it then and there, i.e. pay a bribe to let you go. And even if you are up to date on everything there, that doesn't mean you can proceed with your journey. The officer would subtly ask if you have anything for the boys or point out how hot the weather is, so he needs money for a drink. These are apparently not rare occurrences, and it's so common that Nigerian comedians often make fun of the police for soliciting bribes. Good on them. Another positive story: Saudi Arabia's King Salman. This should make you think, and there'll be another section later on, but this should make you think, are things really changing? Anyway, Saudi Arabia's King Salman has issued a decree allowing women to drive for the first time. Government ministries are to prepare reports within 30 days, and the order will be implemented by June of 2018. Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world to forbid women from driving, and rights groups have campaigned for many years now to allow women in Saudi Arabia to drive. And some women who have been driving have been caught. They've been imprisoned for defying the rule. Welcome to the modern era, Saudi Arabia. Mr. Trump announced tax cuts this week, some of which are interesting, and yes, it will benefit the elites. But there's also a bit in it for others as well. And they talking of reducing the corporate tax rate from 35 to 20%, and change tax on overseas profits, which will have no benefit to the average people, but like I said, there is some element in our favour. And they top 25% rate for firms organised as pass-through entities such as limited liability corporations. For families, nearly double the amount for individuals, and families can deduct from $12,000 and $24,000. An increased tax credit for children, here. You know, some of those despot countries that have been banned from entering here actually pay the families for the children. It's time we caught up with the modern world as well. Anyway, tax credits for children, and introduce a new tax credit for non-child dependents, and on probably the most pleasing note, eliminate a tax on inheritance. Again, that will favour the elites because they have more money. Well, they do currently. Whether that lasts is debatable. You can't spend in a box, can you? Not 6 foot on, not 6 foot under anyway. So that particular one, you know, you've paid taxes on virtually every stage of the money. You've been paying taxes on your wages, it then goes into the bank, there's a tax on that, and you can pay more to the IRS, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Tax. And then when you get to the end of your savings, they tax it again. Yeah, it's just pure greed. So that is a welcome change. 2 more stories before we get to the top of the hour. We have a new name, I think. Yeah, this one. You know, ISIS, ISIL is Al Qaeda, Taliban, and a few others. Z, Blackwater. They're all there. They just switch the names around. Here's a new one called Resolute Support. NATO. So the US airstrike this week against alleged militants in the Afghan capital of Kabul caused quite a number of civilian casualties after an alleged missile malfunctioned, according to officials. Yeah, right. Funny how they all malfunction when it kills civilians. It's just collateral damage to them, isn't it? The alleged strike was supposed to be in support of Afghan troops fighting insurgents who attacked Kabul airport with rockets shortly after the US Defense Secretary Jim Mattis arrived on a visit. It's funny how many times a US person arrives on a visit and there's some sort of attack going on. Extra funding required? So the US recently confirmed it would send an extra 3,000 troops to Afghanistan, and tragically one of the missiles malfunctioned, causing several casualties. The NATO-led mission in Afghanistan is known as the Resolute Support. So that's another name to watch out for. This is a post by one of the members. I think it was Elaine, so thanks for that. And it's an on-the-ground report from Puerto Rico. Yes, the same fun and games that's still ongoing in Houston, the same fun and games in Florida, and it appears even worse fun and games going on in Puerto Rico, where people are being blocked. Medical supplies, gas, water, food, everything. You know, if we're going to be, if they're going to be the 51st state, and America uses them as a leverage, you've also got to show that you're responsible for them as well. You've already raped the country blind, and you're just going to let them sink. So this person's in Puerto Rico, and they work as a power operator for the electric company, and the poor guy has a 32-week pregnant wife, and this is the first time since our collapse that a Facebook newsfeed logged and updated, and this is my story. The person is rather enraged and kind of desperate at this point. First off, FEMA, it's time those people faced consequences of actions immediately, as in now. FEMA has federalised our gas and diesel channels. They've taken over them. The lines at the gas station currently to fill your car is 12 hours. This person had to do it twice, so a whole day just to get gas. FEMA have hoarded all resources and manpower, meaning transportation truckers capable of supplying gas stations. FEMA right now has made the gas crisis horrible. I travelled far to find family members since all communications are down. All condos have no diesel, so no water can go up the pumps to flush. The smell of piss and shit is beyond this hemisphere, and because of no diesel, we are having our sick dying in their homes. Some died because of oxygen failures, because their generators eventually died through lack of gas, but because of no way to get a single drop of diesel or gas for the entire week. This person found most of them, people dead. I still, after a week, cannot see my mum. A mountainside of dead trees are on the way, making it completely impassable. I called her as she has food and water for a day more, and that's going to be my mission tomorrow, to get my mother some food. Most, and I mean almost, all trees in the island are now dead, meaning no vapour, no clouds, no rain. We will have to reforest immediately, or we will become a desert island, a dead island. I cannot recall a day where I looked up and saw no clouds. It's been a week now, and the sight is terrifying. There have been absolutely no drops of any supplies to anyone at all. There's been no message on radio, nor speakers regarding supply drops or water. The Jones Act prevents ships from around the world to come directly here without stopping first in the US and then having those supplies moved to a US shipping container and then sent here. They're not arriving. This is what's going on, folks. So now the world can see the horror of that. They cannot send help directly, and time is running out. As I write this, I'm on a ceiling of the third home I called home during this disaster. As water and supplies and dangers arise, we have to keep moving. My wife's best friend lost her pregnancy during this ordeal, and now I'm so terrified of my own wife's pregnancy. I have no idea how in 7 weeks I'm going to help my baby girl survive this heat wave that never stops. Now we've lost our vegetation and she cannot travel because of advanced stage pregnancy. I felt useless trying to console my wife because of her best friend's baby died. By the way, thank you airlines who are charging $2,000 for a plane ticket when they normally sell for $300 so people can get away. You know, yet again, boycott those people. Name and shame them. I can see a small Isla Grande airstrip from here, and I see the little planes leave at all times. They are ferrying people to the Dominican Republic and then fly to the States. Granted, our main international airport suffered the loss of the traffic control for 30 miles and commercial flights are hesitant to come, but thanks for the price hike nonetheless. Get the damn army to put out a radar like in a war zone and get us moving. Anyway, this is my rant. I'm just desperate. I hope it's not like what I heard at the bank line today, that all Trump says that we need to pay Wall Street our debt while we are dying here, and then he talks about peaceful protesters taking a knee on the anthem. Here. I'll have a piece on the anthem later on. We can only send our hopes and wishes that something actually gets done for the people of Puerto Rico, the struggling people in Florida, the struggling people in Houston. Rather than focusing on a bullshit NFL game and what somebody's doing or somebody's not doing, there are people dying all over this country. Fires in the northwest, fun and games going on in California, Texas, Florida, Puerto Rico. Not to mention, nobody's going to help the people of the US Virgin Islands either, or the British Virgin Islands. Nothing. The island of Martinique, owned by the French. Nothing. No help. Zero. Is this what this planet's all about, where we just ignore people? I think not. And I think either Mr. Trump gets off his backside and focuses on real events that really matter to people, or face the consequences of the wrath of we the people, because we are sick of it. Right, let's have some music. Perhaps this song is kind of appropriate. What's coming in the next hour. Bye for now. Hi all, and welcome to the second hour. We have some intel. Oh boy, do we have some intel. Certain times some of these shows are being rather heavy. It's a lot to take in. A lot of it is filtered because none of us like to absorb doom and gloom 24/7. I have no option. But then I mentioned last week where you have days where you feel like, why am I doing this? And then something happens and you think, that's why we're doing it. This week I've had Monday, Tuesday, happy days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be happy days. And here's why. An ultimatum has gone out following the threats issued by the Rothschilds during the United Nations meeting recently. Covered this in last week's show. Now, the threats that were made, for those who didn't tune in last week, was if the countries of the UN did not install the Rothschilds as controllers of the UN by the next meeting, they would launch germ warfare genocide on the whole populace. Meetings took place, words were bandied about, and a proper ultimatum was given to the Rothschilds group. They had until midday on Monday, just past, to deliver once again what they had been promising via funding to all governments and other certain organisations, you know who I'm referring to, that the Rothschilds had promised. And on Monday at 12 noon, after they yet again failed to deliver the said promises, a directive went out. A meeting took place in the afternoon of Monday, and at 4 a.m. Tuesday morning, the Consequences of Actions Directive was launched, and the takedown of anybody who is working for, part of, or connected to the Rothschilds are now being removed along with the Rothschilds. To date, 78 countries have launched raids on the Rothschilds people, and 5,100 government officials in those countries have been fired on the spot. A further 600 is no longer with us permanently and or arrested. 5,100 government officials have been fired and 600 are either dead or arrested. The removal of all interfering Rothschilds and their family members is ongoing as we speak, and it will not stop until it's completed. Like I said, happy days. Item number 2. The bloodline families who have had a controlling interest around the world have got a bit pissy. Oops. And they've resorted to name-calling some of our people connected with the foundation for preventing their goals. Message to them: suck it up, you failed. You have had thousands of years to do something for the benefit of the all. You chose to be for the self. It's no wonder we call it blood money. Or is it bloodline money? Not no more. Item number 3. A 250-year-old Rothschilds trust based in Europe has come to light this week, which laundered a lot of money for unscrupulous exercises. This trust's purpose was mainly to be used for blackmail and was basically a politically based trust. And what happens is the trust makes donations to certain politicians, so they always have something on them. This is how it works. Now you have to remember, it's supposed to be illegal to collect donations from outside America. Now, we all know it's largely overlooked, but these people who operate the trust always have that in hand. They also use the funds to make bribes, cover up crimes, and also manufacture lies against certain politicians or leaders they no longer approved of. So the main benefactors of this particular in recent times has been the Clintons and the Bushes, no surprise there. And they would use this particular trust fund to launch a negative campaign against those that didn't follow their orders. So what we may find going forward, it may be the case that some politicians and leaders have been wrongly accused of doing things. I'm not going to name names, but this is how they operate. Time will always tell. As of Wednesday morning, this trust was confiscated and so is no longer available to certain clowns who play games. Another revenue stream gone. Oops. Item number 4. Directives from on high, above, and on the ground have finally had their patience snapped, as they now feel the cabal has gone too far. Quite why it's taken this long remains a mystery to me and to us all, I imagine. But following the cabal's attempts to empty out most, if not all, of the islands south of Florida with their weather wars, which is designed to create further confusion, a whole heap more deaths and a whole heap more refugees, which yet again we the people in America will be asked to pay for again. Well, war has been declared on the cabal and their removal is underway. This is separate from the first item, the Rothschild people. So there's 2 directives ongoing as we speak. Arrests have already been made and people have been fired. 5,178 countries to date. I suspect that will increase both the numbers of people being fired and the numbers of countries being involved. It's going to be a fun 3 or 4 days. So this is separate. This last one is separate from the Rothschild people, although technically it is linked due to the spider's web of connections of the Elites. Told you it'd be good, didn't I? Item number 5. Right, here we go. So, there's been a number of hints in recent shows over many months, little pieces here and there thrown out, little suggestions here and there. But there's an ongoing set of happenings all around the world that you can't ignore anymore. The birds are going missing, being reported in several countries for good reason. Other creatures are also going missing for good reason. And some of the symptoms people are experiencing, the frequencies are varying wildly, odd and strange pains throughout your body, feeling of being dense or heavy, emotional outbursts, heavy heart, and then a feeling of elation, and also a feeling of foreboding, prickly and or tingling skin, ears buzzing and or ringing. Many people are losing their minds. Things appearing and also vanishing in front of you. Glitches appearing. There's a big glitch appeared. Oh boy. Time missing or time speeding up. Feeling dizzy and like you are spinning. Others are feeling like they are floating on air. The sea waters are going missing in huge volumes and steadily returning. Earthquakes are increasing. Why? Because the time has arrived. The end of the construct is upon us. These are the changes you're all experiencing. The planet is tilting. I have mentioned that before. It's now confirmed. It's going back on its axis. So it goes upright. Because that's the way out. Now, certain visions were shown to me in certain events at certain times. And I explained one recently about the chain snapping, whether it was symbolic or real. It was real. The new Earth is rather close, and yet also rather far away. Let me explain that another time. So the planet has to be turned back upright. It then becomes a drive machine. Almost like a rocket in many ways. The sun is now the original, not the construct. It's now producing natural light. You will experience a range of emotions. Some of loss. Not all will make it. That's a great disappointment to those that came here to rescue the all. A great disappointment. But if you strive high and achieve sufficient, then that is enough. But the objective was to try and save the all. But too many have gone down the wrong path. Those who have been evil on this planet will not be going with us. They're going into the pit. The portal I described the other week, that's them. Bye. This is why they tried to escape. They knew what was coming. They also know they couldn't prevent it. Once the AI system, to my understanding and my knowledge, went down in November of 2015, the hold on this planet and its people started to diminish rapidly. Some are arguing it's now helping, and some would argue we don't need its help. Some would argue, why do we need AI? I'm firmly in that camp. Once people are educated to a level of understanding of what's taking place here, who and what we are, and where we came from. Once that truth is outed, the idea of needing technology to tell us what to do, to me at least, others see differently, is beyond comprehension. There are souls in here who built whole solar systems, danced amongst the stars, creating life, creating matter that condensed down to come into here to fix it. Do you really think those souls need AI to help them? Because I don't. So these changes that are ongoing, I don't have a definitive date. I just know it started. It's underway. You'll experience some or all of what I mentioned previously. The day that construct turns off, life here and other places changes forever. Some will be able to go home where they really belong. Some will stay here in a better a better 3D experience than what we've been given. A real one for a start. And the others who continue and played the game and tortured, sacrificed, ritualed, war, death, famine, all them will face consequences of their own actions. Some people have been bad in this lifetime and changed their ways and regretted some of the things they did, generally when they were younger. I think we all have elements of that. But the key is, you regretted doing it. That's sufficient to move forward, not back. The ones who will suffer will be the ones who are pure evil, the sociopaths. They kind of forgot who and what they are. Maybe it'll remind them who and what we are. Hi all and welcome back. My name is Human. How the person looked up to the God, and then he found out who he was and looked up to himself. This is what this show is about. Since we started THI, was recognising who and what we are. Too often in this world we followed the victim saviour mode, and we've all played it, both parts in different stages of our lives. Except I come along and tell you, you are the saviour. You always were. I think it's clear now to everyone who's been involved that the ETs are not here to save us. We have to save ourselves. Have they helped? Absolutely. They leveled the playing field sufficiently where we can make our own mark. Much has been done over the last 12 months. A lot of it covered on this show. The sovereignty movement. Even Mr. Trump mentioned the word sovereignty at least. I only listened to 15 minutes. He must have mentioned sovereignty 6 times in 15 minutes. That's your pointer. I've told you, Trump knows who we are. He's fully aware of this show and also of our group. He knows what we're doing. Now, once this clean-up, now the clean-up is underway, maybe Mr. Trump will not be as threatened as he has been in the previous 8 months. I've made no bones. I don't particularly like the man. I don't think he's a good representative of America. Former game show host. You know, America kind of prides itself on image. A lot of it, which is false, created image via Hollywood. There's numbers of good Americans that aren't famous in inverted commas who could run this country a better way. What we don't want going forward, and I think all the people are starting to see that, they're tired of leaders who rule. We want leaders who set example, leaders who teach, leaders who encourage, and leaders who empower. That's the future of humanity. Leaders, or let's say it the real term, the dictators have failed. They've had their roulette. It's failed. And it's time humanity stepped forward and open to all possibilities. No longer impossible, more a case of I'm possible. No longer should you just be labelled, well, I can't do anything because I am this or I am that. You are capable of doing so much more once you realise it. Once you stand in your own sovereignty. All of us are capable of doing so much more. The idea that I'm only a joiner, or I'm only a painter, or I'm only a banker, or I'm only this, is limitation. Once you remember who and what you are, the idea of limitation is absolutely absurd. This is what the religions have taken away from you. The self. With your service to the self to be able to be service to others. Religion took all that away. Where you had to pray. In other words, you are giving your energy away to an external source. You are to create a spark. Why does anything have to be external? We've been rather silly, humanity. Yes, there's some excuses after the event, but we should never have descended this far to begin with. That can only have been done by our own errors. To correct those errors, all of us have to stand up and stand forward. This planet's a mess. We will get extensive help, and eventually funds will be made available to make things better. Better transport, better this or better that. Clean food would be a good start. Clean water, an even better one, and clean air. But the biggest clean is yourself. If we're to go forward as a species, we cannot continue with envy, greed, selfishness, violence, crime, abuse. That is kind of rampant right through this planet. And yes, there are excuses due to certain genetics. It doesn't mean to say you have to follow it, does it? All of us are being programmed to an extent. It also depends on how much you've deprogrammed. And many who listen to this show have already started that. Where you're seeing through the illusion. We're on the brink of coming of age. We can't carry on being children and expect those that control us to just walk away if we can't step into their shoes. Time to think and dream big. It's it's really exciting. Like, I've seen it coming over a period of time. Like I've said, even back in Cosmic Voice, in essence, we won on January the 1st, 2013. I'll use Shane's term. We've just forgotten how to claim the victory. Certain ones tried and certain ones failed due to infiltration and stupidity. Certain groups were offered up or proffered up as hope, only to find those hopes dashed as they're part of the same system also. But again, whether it was the White Hats or some other group, it's still external, isn't it? On a micro level. When it's all about you as well. We're all in this together, whether we like it or not. There's a lot of people on this planet I'd rather not share the same air with. A lot of them won't be breathing fairly soon, from all accounts. They shouldn't have been breathing for a long time, but we let things slide too much. Yes, it was the totalitarian creep where they had bits on and bits on, but you only had to step back and overview to see it, and yet people just carried on with their lives. And that's still a big problem today. People living in their own little bubble, thinking nothing can go wrong for them. No way will they lose their job. No way will they have their home foreclosed on. No way will my child be sexually abused and snatched off the street. Can't just keep happening to everybody else and not you. And the push has been on, but it's affecting everyone. I did a piece a couple of weeks ago about the Germans. The Germans. There's a couple of time for me to say that. The Germans, they bombed our chippy, you know. A little bit of my hometown accent there. But the piece at the start, Tomorrow Belongs to Me, was the Hitler Youth song. We have to teach our youth tomorrow belongs to us. Not some nationalistic, fascist, patriotistic. No, us. Not love of your country. Love of the people is what matters. Again, I'll quote Shane. Countries are just lines on a piece of paper. Imaginary borders. States are divided up the same way. Lines on a piece of paper. So somehow, because you live on one side of the line, you have this sort of trait, because it's the culture for that state, and then you step over the other side of the line and you have to become a different culture. No, 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 and no. Cult your. Affect the cult is what culture stands for. People. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Nature, the planet, and all living beings. Governments and countries are irrelevant. It's all about us and the people. Let's get into some op-ed pieces. Where do we start? There's something that most people won't be aware of. I mentioned recently that there was Operation Paperclip 1, 2 and 3, which kind of surprised some. But here's why. One of the most crucial events, well, you got to remember the Cold War started just after World War II. Another engineered bit of nonsense to create money, to go into black budget programs. When you realise the CIA and the KGB have been working together all along with Mossad and MI5, MI6, then you realise this alleged fighting between the countries is all nonsense. But it's all the same people playing the same games. Anyway, in 1948, over a 15-month period, 275,000 flights on military planes came from the United States of America to West Berlin. 275,000 flights to deliver supplies of food, medicine and coal to the beleaguered people in Germany. Really? Were they delivering food, medicine and coal to the beleaguered people in America? I think not. Anybody else feel there's something radically wrong with that? Well, I do. The war, who pays for that? The American people. Reparations and supplies to the Germans, who paid for that? Yet again, the American people. Now those flights didn't come back empty. That was the ruse. Food, medicine, coal. They were coming back with the Nazi people. And this is what was called the Operation Paperclip, under the guise of helping the Germans deal with the Russians. Yeah, right. This is where the Fourth Reich started. 1948. And it's only recently that some are now beginning to see it. And maybe even less. Who are not under the illusion that we, as in America and Britain, actually won that war. Because clearly we never. It's all engineered. Where are we next? I'll do that last. Let's get into some word magic. I'll do it in order, saves me jumping up and down the page. Here's some words I found this week that may be of interest to people. The term influenza. Now, of course, there's a lot of furore going on about flu shots. They're even bribing people now with offers of credit cards or debit cards between $25 and $200 to have a flu jab. Really? Anyway, the term influenza was created during an outbreak of a disease in Europe from what was known as Italian influenza. Now, influenza means epidemic, as it does now, but the original version of influenza meant visitation and influence of the stars. Oops. Perhaps you now know where it came from. And this is from medieval Latin, influenza in the astrological sense, and an article from Rome informs us that a sort of plague has broken out there which destroys abundance of their people, and they call it influenza. But the original meaning of influenza is visitation and influence of the stars. It wasn't until the mid-19th century that that term became known as a common cold. Recently I've been mentioning about Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, so I thought I'd look up that. And the term Hermetic, which also means to seal, but the original term means dealing with occult science or alchemy, from the Latin Hermeticus, from the Greek Hermes, god of science and art, who was identified by Neoplatonists, mystics and other alchemists with the Egyptian god Thoth, as Hermes Trismegistos, thrice great Hermes, as that particular person was known as. They changed the names for different eras. It's all the same being. And the one known as Thoth was supposedly the one who invented the process of making a glass tube airtight, a process in alchemy using a secret seal, hence completely sealed, came into being from the 1600s, which implied hermetically sealed. But the real origin of the word hermetic means dealing with occult. Go figure. Grammar only came in the late 14th century, and Latin grammar in particular, which means rules of Latin. Well, there's a lot of people who get kind of pissy if people don't do the proper grammar. Perhaps when you've heard this, you may want to reconsider that. So the term grammar is Latin based, which came from the reptilian race, period, or the old French grammaire and the British term grammar, especially in Latin and philology. Also magic, incantation, spells, mumbo jumbo, in reference to English usage by the late 1600s. I'll repeat that again. Grammar is magic, incantation, spells, mumbo jumbo, which is a bit like legalese and their babble, and that was started from the late 1600s. Thence, rules of a language to which speakers and writers must conform. So you had to conform to their language, and that started in the 1580s. So now perhaps the grammar police might ease off a bit. State political organisation of a country means supreme civil power and or government. The sense of a semi-independent political entity under a federal authority. That's where the term state comes from. One of the bodies politic which together make up a federal republic, which stems from 1774. 2 years before alleged independence. Now, the British North American colonies occasionally were called the States as far back as the 1630s. The States has been short for the United States of America since 1777. Not America. United States, remember, is not America. So 1 year after we allegedly got independence here, we were labelled the United States of America. It also applies to states in Netherlands, now, as it's now known, formerly Holland. Whilst going through some other words, the Irish place names came up. County Kilkenny. And you'd be amazed at how many of you type in church in the etymology book, how many words apply to the church without you realising it. So kill, which is the first element in many Celtic place names, meaning cell of a hermit. Nice description of some of the people of Ireland that they have. It also means church and the burial place. And then we've got in Wales, Clan Fair. There's a lot of places called Clan, followed by further letters. And no, please don't ask me to say the one that has 26 letters in it. I had an uncle who used to be able to say that all the way through. 26 letters a place in Wales. It ends in go goch, something like that anyway. Anyway, Clan Fair is common in Welsh place names from the Welsh clan, which also means church. So Clan Fair is church fair. Clan Dudno, Church of Dudno. Here's another in the word games, suburban. You may not like this. From the 1620s, the term suburban came in, and somewhat earlier was suburban, suburbial, which is circa 1600s. Latin had suburbinus, which means near the city of Rome. And in Church Latin, suburbia was applied to the 6 dioceses near Rome. In other words, when you moved to suburbia, you became part of Rome. See what they've done? Another word often used, dis, D-I-S. Disappointed, disillusioned. It's always a negative. Probably fitting, given dis is a Roman underworld god. From the Latin, again, reptilian. Dis. So now you know why there's so many more negative words beginning with D-I-S. Right, let's get into... We'll leave it on a happier piece before another music break. So there's been a big furore on the what's now known as the NFL storm. Of course, we have the Hurricane Maria and all kinds of other hurricanes. Now we seem to have something that gets more coverage than people dying, but there you go. This is the way the media work, and the synthetics as well, following it. So, apparently, Mr. Trump and many others are not happy that people are not standing for the flag or the anthem. And you want to ask the question, really, is that headline news with all that's going on around the world? With all that's going on in America alone, never mind what's going on around the world. You've got the Northwest singed with fire. Houston, Texas, turned upside down. Florida, pretty much the whole of Florida, inconvenienced in some places, kind of shredded in others. And Puerto Rico. decimated. US Virgin Islands, decimated. But it's more important to talk about people not standing for the flag or the anthem. There's thousands of people with no homes, no electricity, no food, and also thousands of people now with no life. None. But let's all worry and focus on two things that have nothing in reality to do with America and everything to do with foreign agents' control. Let's have a bit of a history lesson. The American flag was created on the 4th of June 1777. So America's 1 year into independence, and yet they create a flag with 13 stripes representing the 13 colonies, all owned by the Crown of England. The flag is red, white and blue. Anyone else not notice it's the same colours as the British Union Jack? Red, white and blue. Now, regarding the Union, was the British Union, we had the Union here in the Civil War. Same people. The Union has played a prominent role also in that. After all, the Civil War was between the Union, as in British Union, and the Confederates, people of the South. Now, it was almost unheard of for individuals to fly the US flag until the Civil War broke out in 1861, at which time the Stars and Stripes suddenly became a popular symbol in the North, the Union. See where I'm going here? Then they added the gold fringe to it, which is Admiralty law and comes under military orders, which we've been under ever since. Anyone also noticed how similar the Puerto Rico flag is, which was adopted in 1952, just after the paperclip operation was completed, and the Puerto Rican flag can only be flown if it's accompanied by the Stars and Stripes. So much for being independent. Now, Puerto Rico, the island name, is a play on words. Puerto means port. Port of Rico. Racketeer, influenced and corrupt organisations. And we all know what's on the island of Puerto Rico, don't we? There it is, right in your face. The Port of Rico. Then we have the Star-Spangled Banner, which became law in 1918 following two other attempts at anthems, one of which was Yankee Doodle Dandy, heaven forbid, and the other, more sinister one, was Hail Columbia, or not, as the case may be. The Star-Spangled Banner was actually an English song called An Acreon in Heaven, and was composed in 1775, 1 year before independence, and that served as a theme song for the Upper Crust Anacreontic Society of London, and was a popular pub song. So these are one of these high-end upper crust elite societies who created that song. Sound familiar? Now, so Neither the flag nor the anthem has anything to do with America or its people. Yet again, it's a twisting of history and a load of lies, and everything to do with British control. The Union, the same colour, the timing of it. The actual song is an English written song, Star Spangled Banner. And an English song is passed off as an American anthem. And yet we still think we got our independence. Sorry. We never. But we will. But we have to start thinking in better ways that the flag and some English song is oh so important, but it's not. Yet again, it's worshipping people, the hidden, the external. If you spoke to and told this to every American, would they still want to worship Britain? Absolutely not. So if people want to make a protest, to be quite honest, I'm not even too sure what the protest is about. I guarantee it's not what I've just told you. America needs its own anthem, not British wrote. And if we need a flag, we need a new one, not 13 colonies, which is 13 crown colonies. We need one that represents the American people, not British and Rome establishment. So the NFL, it's only in the last 8 years that they started to come on the field for the anthem. For those that don't know, what happened in 2009? Well, the reason they started coming on the field in 2009 is that because the Department of Defense paid the NFL $12.3 million between 2011 and 2015 to boost recruitment in the military. Oops. Again, that's our money wasted. That 12.3 million could have helped the veterans. Could have took people off the streets. Could have took the near 1/3 of Americans living below the poverty line. No. Let's recruit more children or young adults to fight bogus wars with boogeymen. So whilst whatever the NFL players are doing may be honourable, the point is they took the seducements to insert themselves into a political arena. That always comes with a cost. It's the bribe money again, isn't it? Here's some money, but you have to do what we want. Money, it seems, always comes at a heavy cost. Things that make you go, 11 people have been arrested under the anti-terror laws as part of a national investigation into neo-Nazi groups in the UK. The arrests include 6 people from the Northwest, 2 from South Wales, 1 from Wiltshire and 2 from West Yorkshire. National Action became the first far-right organisation to be banned in the UK. They've started arresting them. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku made a rather shocking confession on live TV when he admitted that HAARP is responsible for the recent spate of hurricanes. And in an interview aired by CBS, Dr. Kaku admitted that recent man-made hurricanes had been a result of a government weather modification program in which the skies were sprayed with nanoparticles and storms then activated through the use of lasers. Item number 3. This is probably a good one to go into the music with. An interview. I had to thank James Godbeer, our admin, for this news item. A BBC interview this week was discussing politics and the usual drivel when one prominent politician said live on air, "What happens when they come for us?" Oops. I think they know. I think they know. And we're going to hunt them down until the end of time. Hi all, and welcome back to the final portion of tonight's show. That was somehow, wasn't it? I've been rather excited. I kind of in a privileged position in some ways. It's not that I haven't earned it. I've put a lot of effort into researching over a long period of time. We're all sick of the weight club. But it really is, from an overview point of view, something extraordinary that has taken place over the last few years. People will look back and go, how did they do that? And maybe those who are more frontline will also ask the same question. The system is so ensconced here and close to perfection in many aspects. You, even in the heinousness of it all, you have to admire the craft in which it was delivered. Imagine the world we'd have if that was turned to better means and not about controlling and consuming people. This is what will go on. It's not just this planet. There's a number of planets around this universe that have been rescued, a number of systems that have been rescued, but this was always the key one. It always was. Once they lost control of this one, the rest would fall with it. There were certain others, smaller systems, not as prevalent as this one, that have been dealt with over time. And those beings that are involved in it, and it's not just reptilians and Draco, they're the kind of common ones to name, but there's a load of humanoids, and they have to get their act together also. And I'm pleased that progress on many of those group meetings via the various councils are coming to fruition, where a new way of being, a new way of operating will go forward. Because you can't just fix one planet and seal it off, which basically we've been sealed off for a long time, and ignore what's going on in the rest of the solar system or the rest of the galaxy or the rest of the universe. That's living in your own little bubble again. So this has been a massive operation that took place over many thousands of years of rescuing planets and rescuing peoples and preventing wars. It will go on for many thousands of years after this, but it will get an awful lot easier as more and more of the dark is eliminated to a point where it returns to balance. That metronome again, 45, 55. Once you start going into 60, 70 and 80% either way, you're having great difficulty making that swinging arm get back to the centre again. But if it's 45, 55 either way, 55 dark, 45 light, you only have a 5% shift. So when it goes to 87% dark and only 13% light, and that was fading rapidly due to the fractal virus, they were actually going to pull this universe, but some thought it could be saved. And we're on a very close brink. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, 2 weeks even, 2 months. It will be an ongoing thing. But I've said all along there will be small events. Maybe this week is one of those small events. The line finally drawn in the sand. People have been fired, large numbers. People have been taken out and people have been arrested, and that is still ongoing as we speak. I will have more figures tomorrow or over the weekend. I may release on the page, or if more high-end news comes out, I may do an extra show. We're getting into that time again. The desperation is reaching epic proportions now. It's still failing, because that is the way it was destined to go. One of the other pieces of things that make you go before we go into some questions, there was an event in Interpol this week, as Interpol has admitted for the first time the Palestinian territories as a new member. And that doesn't make you go, I don't know what will. Yet again, there was opposition from Israel, not its people, the same Zionist scum that have perpetrated war after war in the Middle East. And the international policing body backed membership for the State of Palestine at its annual General Assembly. The Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki declared the news a victory made possible by the principled position of most Interpol members. Israel had tried to delay the vote, arguing that Palestine was not a state and therefore ineligible for membership. Oh, the irony of that comment, says I. And not even a state, country or nothing. You never were. Isis Ra-El, the god Isis, the false solar god Ra, and El means God. Hence the term El-ites. They all think they're gods. I think they're a bag of shite, personally, but that's my opinion. Right, let's get into some questions. What's going down in Puerto Rico? I think we covered that. My own personal intuition tells me they're emptying all the islands out. All of them. There's too many being hit in one go. This has been part of an ongoing thing. Remember Haiti? I mentioned about a month ago to watch the islands, for those of you who have long memories. There's a lot of islands around the world. 99% of them you've probably never heard of in your life. You go on Google Earth and go into the open ocean and you see islands everywhere. Of course they're not holiday destinations, so it's only the holiday destinations or the vacation destinations that are known. There's thousands of islands everywhere. Who's to say there's not humans on those islands? Non-humans. Would the general populace know? Well, a lot of the islands they don't fly over. Why they don't fly over the North and South Pole? In case you see something you're not supposed to. Watch the islands. Since the cabal owns Hollywood and they love sacrifices and rituals, do you suppose all those disclaimers at the end of their movies are all a lie? The example I'm thinking of is no animals were killed or injured in the making of this movie. Yeah, they always cover themselves. It's a bit like the medical people. Take this pill, but you might have irritable bowel syndrome, but you might end up with the runs or the wild shits, or you might die. I think I'll stick with the irritable bowel syndrome, thank you. And this is how they cover themselves. You've seen it on the insurance documents, where the limitations section that most of us don't read. We're paying for our home to be insured, not to be limited. But yet again, we've allowed them to dictate to us what they're insuring and what they're not, when we should be the other way. If you're going to knock down limitations where they're going to put up your hurricane deductible, then you can put down the fees that we've paid. But this just seem to be hell-bent on taking more money off people and having less exposure to themselves. That shouldn't be how it works. It's like the clowns at Bright House, now known as Spectrum. To be quite honest, most of the time I only watch it to fall asleep. Or I like the English soccer of Saturday and Sunday morning, and I used to be able to watch all 10 games live. Now they've decided I can only watch 3, and you have to pay a subscription if you want to watch the other teams. And yet my bill has gone up $15. I've got less, but the bill goes up. Yeah. I'll be speaking to them over the weekend. What do you think of the possibility that the desert sands were dumped there and that volcanoes could be giant landfills? Some of the sands were put there. Göbekli Tepe was one of them. They buried that for a reason. As for the deserts themselves, we never had deserts on this planet until the wars came. And the deserts are caused by extremely advanced weaponry. It literally scorched the earth. This is why, and when the Draco came in as the saviours, is that program again. we'll stop all the wars and we'll help you, and you just sign here. Admittedly, it was in difficult circumstances, but we have to be aware going forward of saviours programs, because there will still be elements hidden like cockroaches in the corner who want to come forward and promise you this and promise you that. Always be aware of it. Volcanoes are portals, all of them, as I understand. That's why you see a lot of craft in and around them. Now people say, well, how can you go through fire and this and that? If you have the ability to fly craft at the speed of light, you have the ability to change the field in front of you. That's how they do it. Is Earth a source creation, or by the demiurge to use us as a food source? It's a source creation and has been twisted and distorted into the hell on earth it is now. I've only recently come across William Mills Tompkins. Fortunately, Mr. Tompkins allegedly, at this point, died last month. Is he a valid source? What do you think? I will. The fact that you're questioning it means you believe yourself that maybe something not right over it. Otherwise you wouldn't ask the question. Believe in yourself. Mr. Tompkins, I listened to his first interview because I was rather interested in the person sitting next to Kerry Cassidy as a shared co-host, something that hasn't happened since Bill Ryan left. That guy that was in there looked remarkably like the old Wilcock to me. So you can check that interview out. And I listened to some of it and I got bored because a lot of it was already revealed. There was a couple of bits in it, you know, but I'm talking from my perspective, which is maybe kind of unfair given I've been researching over the length of time I have, and there's some people who only woke up to this the last 2, 3, 4, 5 or 10 years. Well, for me it was just repeating stuff that was already out. Once Mr. Tompkins went in with Corey Good and Wilcock, then you realise perhaps he's not all he's made out to be, and yet again is part of the Coven programme. If when the bank fails I have Wells Fargo, why would be my question. We've talked about the 5 corrupt cabal banks. There's no real need for anyone to bank with Wells Fargo, who's in the alternative community, or Bank of America, or Chase. These people that operate those banks have raped this country. And as for the clowns, the executive clowns in Wells Fargo, if you heard some of their conversation during high-level meetings, you wouldn't bank with them again. Common sense? Not really. Nonsense. So please switch your money from Wells Fargo into a more less cabal, like a credit union. Anyway, I live in a small Virginia town. I live solely on Social Security, low income. pulling money out of the bank, well, as most seniors, I have little other than bills that come out and some automatically withdrawn. UVA Credit Union is here today to drum up customers. Is this a safer system than worrying about Wells Fargo draining our small accounts? Absolutely. Absolutely. Wells Fargo, for those who don't know, and I think you're one of the new ones who asked this question, Wells Fargo tried to take over the bankrupt Federal Reserve last year. They got blocked. They were going to enroll us in a new Federal Reserve. They got blocked. So I hope that helps. Could the 432 Hz frequency be one part of the combination of frequencies that harmonise, allowing us to generate a beneficial PSI field? There's a lot of on the internet about these frequencies, but not all frequencies work best for all of the people. There is certain frequencies that are harmonic, but there's a number of different races in here. Not all of us have come from Earth. Not all of us come from the same star system. Not all of us came from the same solar system either. What if their frequency is different? I personally can't guarantee that I would nail down and say that this frequency is the best, because I literally don't know. There's been a lot put out about the 440 and a few others, and the 512 love frequency, and there's a few in the solfeggio range, some of which I've tried, some of which resonated with me, and some that didn't. And another person plays that tune, although those harmonics, and they loved it, whereas it felt like a bad vibration to me. So it's different frequencies that apply for different people. Now, there's certain ones that are imminently harmful to us all. Those have to be eradicated. We have the ability to create Wi-Fi that can heal. Why not use it? But the beneficial PSI field is more of, from what I understand, is more of an individual thing. You enhance your own PSI field. Everyone has one. If you are in balance, calm, grounded, centered and shielded, not partaking of heavy amounts of alcohol and not partaking in any amount of drugs, then your PSI field should be fairly strong and non-invadable. Or less chance of being invaded anyway. So I hope that helps. Do you have any information on what is happening with all the hurricane locations? Is it true that people are disappearing? Yes. Food and supplies are not being allowed in? Yes. People are not able to return to their homes to evaluate damage? Yes. And now in Puerto Rico? Yes. Someone says there are hundreds of shipping containers that are not being distributed. Correct. Even doctors are being turned away. Correct. I don't think that will go on much longer. Who is Lilith? I was going to prepare a longer answer. She's commonly worshipped by the dark entities and is known as the moon goddess. lots of people moon worship. I'm not so sure that was a good thing, given that object above us is not our moon. So Chloe, maybe we'll get Chloe on one day or one show. She knows more about the mythological aspects than I do. I've learnt a lot in the last 4 years, but she has a more extensive library of knowledge on the Liliths and all the other names that crop up. But from my understanding, Lilith is not good. Have the Kingdom of Mana indicated whether the 16,500-year-old treaty mankind has been living under has ended yet? Yes, it's ended, but there is still a few more tribes that have to be signed off. I haven't had an update on that for a couple of months. Again, there's that much going on. It's keeping track of it all. And trying to have a life at the same time. Nigh on impossible at the moment. I will see if I can get an answer for the next show, where we're at with that, but I know there wasn't that many left. Once that has been completed, there will be a full-on ceremony involving all the heads of each tribe. And will also include the Foundation people and also this show host. I hope it's televised live, because that will really see a signal at the end is as close as we think it is. Albert Pike's first 2 predictions have come true, and a third seems like it's looming against us. Do you see a war with Israel in the Middle East in the near future, and if so, where are all the good guys? Yes, Albert Pike's predictions came true because they weren't predictions. They were plans. And the plans for World War III. World War III should have started in 1980. It failed. They had another couple of goes in the 90s. That failed. They've had numbers of goes in the last few years. Ukraine, Syria. They've all failed. And given how ongoing actions are currently, it's unlikely it will ever come to fruition. You may just see in the future a total end to wars on this planet. I, for one, hope, given how much of the public's money is being wasted on military here, I'd like to see that money put to better terms. Give the military their budget, the full budget, and reduce it year on year. But they're not playing with genetics, they're not doing dodgy research, they're not doing it to plough it into black budgets and all kinds of other skullduggery and spying, and the cost of which is astronomical and absolutely ridiculous when the people who are paying for it are struggling badly. Give them the funds to fix the air, fix the sea that they've messed up, fix the land that they've messed up, and get some of the engineers to get back to this country and let's fix this crumbling country. We've got thousands of bridges on the point of collapse. It's time they were all fixed. So the money is used to rebuild, not destroy. to provide better lives and support for people, not to bomb and desecrate. Otherwise, to me, they have no purpose going forward, none whatsoever. A global military, once the changes have been made, should be from all countries, with the only aspect to their purpose is to defend this planet from outside or under our feet forces. That's all. Not to bomb Syria or do Israel's Zionist weapon games. That has to end. And I'd like to see the US military broken up in a way that they are rebuilding, not destroying, and ultimately we move on to a global military whose only purpose, sole purpose, is to protect this planet from invading outsiders. That's all. Once all the countries become sovereign, it then becomes illegal to attack another country. So why do you need military? Other than to defend from the outside. Are new souls created, or is it always the same recycled? No, there is both. Given how many souls have been consumed, you would have to create new ones. Otherwise, there'd be none left. If the sun is being masked, does it mean there's absolutely no benefit to sun gazing? There is now. Does New Berlin exist in the Antarctic? Yes, it does. Lots of nasty Nazis and nasties down there. They've been down there a long time. There's groups of beings that have been there a long time as well. Crystal cities, domed cities. Except the crystal city down there is now in ruins. How are we for time? Where are we? This one. Is there any truth there are over 300,000 UN troops in the USA, and for what purpose should we be concerned? I don't think there's that amount. I know that in 8 states, I don't fear. I have a feeling that they will be dealt with. They're not welcome. Mercenaries at the behest of the Allies. My question is about sports, not the current PSYOP being run pertaining to the flag. That's too obvious about what they want to achieve, division and distraction. But what about the cloning of professional athletes? Tom Brady, the quarterback for the New England Patriots, during a recent game, a commentator put up a tracker on Brady's throwing motion, and according to the timer, it was revealed that Tom Brady's throw release from start to finish was just as fast as it was 20 years ago. The number of throws over that period of time would have been well over 10,000 throws, including practices, averaging 1,000 per year, and still his release is just as fast. Then he appeared on several talk shows during the week where his conditioning was discussed. Brady attributed his actual physical endurance to drinking half of his body weight in water per day, 85 pounds worth, no less. the questionnaire smells a rat and felt energetically that Tom Brady was not completely human. Are there clones being used in professional sports, and if so, do you happen to know how many, and can you name some of them? I can't name any of them. I don't know how many. I suspect there is some in there. They're in everywhere else. But even I know Mr. Brady, and I don't follow American sports too much. One would suggest he's part of the elites, and maybe he's partook in certain Kool-Aid drinks. Something's amiss, obviously, because no matter how well you keep fit, you can't do things you could sporting wise 5 years ago, never mind 20. Please explain more about dome cities and how best to handle living in such for the time being. Last week you listed New York, Toronto and California. Entire state of California or particular cities? I don't know the whole list. I'm just aware of a few. Some people can't see the dome. It creates a reflection. In other words, it's a screen. The mirror tech again. Or you may see if you follow the radar on your particular city and weather patterns go in a circle and avoid the same area time and time again, then you may suspect something's amiss, because it can't enter. That's something you can look out for. All of them will be coming down. I think that's it. Does sound give rise to light resonate with you? Not particularly. It's all about frequencies at the end of the day. I'm not too sure that applies. It's all waves, sound and light. It's just a wave, it's just a frequency. You change the frequency and it changes the light. This is how they do the cloaking methods. They just put it in a spectrum just outside of our visual range, and you can have, you could look up and there might be a giant ET homeworld, like a biosphere above our heads, and not see it. And what people are starting to see is the breakdown in the construct, where you will see in front of you glitches, like a whole block of little oblong pieces of light that form a pattern, not necessarily to look like a human or an entity, just a block, where it looks more like a doorway. So in essence it is. And of course many of us have been seeing over a long period of time little sparkles of light out of the corner of their eye. Some of them now dance in front of you, to some people, not to all, so don't feel like you're being left out. It's just certain things appear to certain people more than others. Doesn't mean that they're any better than you, just maybe they have more of a purpose or need to be able to see that. for whatever reason. Some people are just more susceptible to the frequencies, more susceptible to light, more susceptible to the energies. I think even looking on the page, I've watched it unfold, where more and more people are reporting the symptoms. 2 or 3 years ago, each and every one of you on the THI page wouldn't have mentioned those symptoms. That's how far you've come. You just would have ignored it as something odd, or trick of light, or you had a speck in your eye. We've always dismissed what's in front of us. Now we're not. And that's how intuition works. You've always had the songs in the head. You haven't always gone and looked at what the word said to find the hidden meaning of why that song came to you, because it is there. Strange dreams that suddenly become prophetic. That's your heads up. But that's just a dream, isn't it? No, actually the daytime's the dream. So before I mess with your heads even more, that's probably a time to end the show. A dream within a dream, eh? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Normally I do me little reading piece. I'm going to reread that piece that made me such a happy person this week, from the second hour. It's the sign of the changes have already begun and has now increased. An ultimate went out following the threats issued by the Rothschilds during the UN meeting recently, whereby if the countries of the UN did not install them, the Rothschilds, as the controllers of the UN by the next meeting, the Rothschilds would launch germ warfare genocide on the whole populace. The Rothschilds were given an ultimatum until noon on this Monday to once again deliver what they have been promising via funding to all governments and certain other organisations they have promised. And yet again, come Monday at noon, the Rothschilds failed to deliver again. On Tuesday morning, starting at 4 a.m, the Consequences of Actions Directive was launched, and the takedown of anybody working for, part of, or connected to the Rothschilds are now being removed along with the Rothschilds. To date, 78 countries have launched raids, and 5,100 government officials in those countries have been fired. A further 600 are now dead or have been arrested. The removal of all interfering Rothschilds and their family members is ongoing as we speak and will not stop until it's completed. Directives from on high, above and on the ground have finally had their patience snapped, as they now feel the cabal have gone too far. Following cabal attempts to empty out most, if not all, of the islands south of Florida with their weather wars, to create further confusion, a whole heap more deaths and a whole heap more refugees, which yet again we the people in America would be asked to pay for again. Well, war has been declared finally on the cabal, and their removal is underway. This is separate from the Rothschilds people directive, although
Ultimately, it's linked due to the spider's web connections of the L-ites. Finally, humanity has taken the fight to them. I want all the members to pause at certain times of the day to think of all the people that have been involved in this, all the people that are in harm's way. Some of our people are in harm's way currently. They're on lockdown because of the threats ongoing. They won't prevail. But spare some time each day and pray for the safe return of all the people that I've took. I'd shown a set of balls, let's be honest, let's put it right, to take these clans on, and who put themselves in harm's way. Real people who put themselves in harm's way for the benefit of all. I'm going to end the show with a favourite of someone from Cosmic Voice, Grammy J, whose birthday was recently. She always loved this song. I think it's kind of fitting. We are the world, we are the people, and we are the saviours. Remember that. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.